Awesome. So let's hit record. I don't want to forget to do that. We're going to share our screen and see what we can figure out. Okay, quick review. Try to do this without any notes or any help like that. Let's start with this thing. Who thinks they could tell me what F is? Give me a thumbs up if you think you could make a good guess at the letter F on this bacterium. I see no thumbs. I guess I can't see a thumb on some of your pictures. Oh, Thomas, what is F?
The nucleus? No, the DNA or RNA, something
Yes.
like that.
Yes, I would take
All
nucleoid
the above.
or DNA. Yeah, because remember, bacteria don't have nuclei, right? So you can't say nucleus, but definitely DNA or nucleoid would be correct. Okay, who thinks they can make a guess at C? C, this innermost membrane. What would C be? Thumbs up if you got a guess for C. I can't tell. Sam, you're so far away from your camera. You either have a thumbs up or you're eating a strawberry. It's hard. I can't tell. I've got no thumbs up on C. Okay. Nope, she's definitely eating something. Anyways, C would be a cell membrane. Outside of the cell membrane is D. What would D be? Anybody want to make a guess at that one? Dawn, make a guess.
Cell wall?
Got it. Nice job. E, not every bacterium is going to have this, but E, what's outside of the cell wall? Somebody throw out a guess.
Isn't that the capsule or something?
That is a
The
capsule.
protein.
Awesome guess. That's a capsule. That's exactly right. Now, B is the fluid that all this junk floats in. Old term from chapter 3. What is B? The fluid that everything floats in the cell. Thumbs up if you got a guess. Actually, just shout it out. There's not that many guesses. Thomas, throw out a guess.
Isn't it like intercellular matrix or something like
Oh,
that?
you're so close. You're so close. There's something called an extracellular matrix. Inside, it's called a cytoplasm. But very good guess. All right. A, super important structure. It is a small ring of DNA. It replicates independently of the main bacterial chromosome, and it's what bacteria pass back and forth during conjugation. What would A be? Give me a guess. Anybody, throw a guess out there, even if it's wrong.
RNA?
Isn't that the ribosome thing? Or no?
RNA
that's
is a
not
good
right.
guess. Ribosome's a good guess. Ribosome on this picture, you see these little specks? I would say
Okay.
those are ribosomes, like probably H, as in horse would be a good ribosome. This guy is called a plasmid. A plasmid is a little circular piece of DNA that bacteria can shoot to another bacterium. Let's do an easy one. How about J? Dawn.
Flagellum.
Flagellum, you got it. Good job.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I told you guys to shout it out. That's all right. Okay, let's go down to this thing. This is a virus. What is all this orange little squiggly junk in the virus? Dawn, throw a guess.
RNA, DNA?
Good answer. It is definitely DNA or RNA. Either one is fine. And how about this like green stuff outside of the DNA? Somebody else want to throw a guess out for that one?
Capsid?
Capsid. Nice guess. I don't know who that was, but you got it. Good guess on capsid. And the very outside layer would be what? It's a tough one. Not all viruses have them, which is what makes it tough. But it's an envelope or a lipid envelope, okay? So great guesses, everybody. Let's jump back to this guy here. This is where we left off last time. We were talking about the lytic cycle and the lysogenic cycle, with the lytic cycle being kind of a pain, but not such a big deal, because basically what's going to happen is the lytic cycle is going to be, it's going to infect the cell. It's going to make you sick. You're not going to like it. You're going to get over being sick. You'll have antibodies to the virus, and life goes on as normal. Tanner's talking through chat. Got it, Tanner. Thank you, sir. Okay, and so the lysogenic cycle, on the other hand, we said is almost worse, because you get the virus, you think you're better, but the virus isn't gone. You just don't have the symptoms right now. And we use the cold sore as an example of this because essentially what happens is, here's the cold sore, right? So this person who's got the cold sore, they've got this DNA from this herpes simplex virus in the cells of their lip. And during the time when they don't have the cold sore actually bothering them, they still have the viral DNA in their cells. And as their cells replicate and go through mitosis, they copy the viral DNA and carry that on to future cells. And so, as weird as it is to think, that viral DNA becomes part of their DNA. And when this person is 85 years old or 90 years old, their lip cells have been replaced who knows how many hundreds of times. Doesn't matter. They're still carrying that viral DNA. So when they're stressed or they're tired or they're sick or they're immunocompromised, somehow that virus knows to kick on and express itself as a cold sore and try to spread to somebody else is basically the idea. And so that's how the virus can alternate between a lysogenic cycle and a lytic cycle. Here, when this person actually has a cold sore that you can see, that virus is currently in the lytic cycle. When they don't have a cold sore you can see, it's in a lysogenic cycle, but they still have the virus. And so that's the difference between the lytic cycle and the lysogenic cycle. Any questions over that? Going once, going twice? Clear as mud? Everybody knows how viruses work now? Okay, cool. Let's move on. Okay, viral disease control. The first disease that we learned to control was smallpox. That was our first ever vaccine. And I have a very ridiculous video that shows you how it was done. Would you like to see the silly video? Thumbs up for silly video. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, silly video it is. Here you go. Enjoy. It's gonna be a great one. Somebody in the chat says hi. Okay. Discard. All right, we got to jump to biology real quick. Got to find this Edward Jenner guy. There it is. It's a silly video, I'm warning you, but I think you'll like it.
Dr. Jenner was an expert on cuckoos. He was also a good scientist because he asked the right questions. What he really wanted was to conquer the deadly smallpox. Cows sometimes caught cowpox, and milkmaids often caught cowpox from the cows. Cowpox didn't do the milkmaids much harm. What interested Jenner was that they never seemed to catch the deadly smallpox. Thousands used to die from smallpox. Why not milkmaids? See that cowpox got in the way. Could cowpox stop them catching smallpox? To test his theory, he needed someone who had either cowpox or smallpox. He chose James Fick, 8 3/4.
Warning, this is very, very unethical. You can't do this to people. This is against bioethics. Hey, give me a thumbs up if you can do the video. Audio okay? Thumbs up for video. Volume, okay? It's the middle of the road for some of you, okay? Sorry about that. That's as loud as I can make it.
He told the lad he thought he could stop him from ever catching smallpox, that it wouldn't hurt much. Then he took some pus from Sarah's cowpox and rubbed it into 2 small scratches on the boy's arm. cowpox was called vaccinia, so Jenner called his invention vaccination. In a few days, James was poorly with cowpox, but he soon got better. Later, Jenner took pus from a smallpox victim and deliberately tried to give James Phipps the deadly disease. There was no cure for smallpox, but James didn't get smallpox. He lived to a ripe old age, and now smallpox has been wiped out thanks to Edward Jenner and his vaccination.
Yay! All right. So, things you should learn from the video. Number one, it made that guy look like a real creeper. Number two, never milk a cow from behind. Milk them from the side. Number three, that's how vaccines were made. They actually took, which kind of makes sense, right? The idea that like smallpox is killing people. Cowpox is not really killing people, but people who have had cowpox can't get smallpox. So before we knew what antibodies were or what immunity was, we had a hypothesis that basically these things that are making people sick are closely related to each other enough so that if you're immune to one, you'll be immune to the other. And so his first ever vaccine, which our vaccines are obviously about 1 million times more high tech than this, was let's give him the cowpox and see if he's immune to the smallpox. And it turned out that he was. And so it really gave us this idea of exposing people to a disease that they could fight off to make them immune to it in the future. And of course, this is really cool because it was the birth of modern day vaccines. And modern day vaccines are even neater because we can actually change the virus so it can't replicate, so it can't make you sick. But it has all the surface proteins for your white blood cells to see what the virus is shaped like, make antibodies against that virus, and then later on, you won't get sick from that disease. Or if you do, you'll be sick for a very short period of time, or you have a significantly less likelihood that you will get sick from that disease. So that was the very beginning of vaccines, and it's really, really interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have heard, I guess give me a thumbs up if you've heard anything about a coronavirus vaccine. Thumbs up, you heard anything about a coronavirus vaccine? Thumbs down, thumbs to the side. Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's the big thing, right? Like, oh, let's make a coronavirus vaccine, which is kind of interesting because you hear doctors say like, well, the process of making a new vaccine isn't done in weeks. It's measured in years. Like it takes a long time to make a vaccine, and that's the case, right? Because you have to get the vaccine before you're ill with the virus, because you have to have immunity to it before you're sick with it. You can't get the flu, get influenza, and go to the doctor and say, hey, can you get me a flu shot because I've got influenza? Tough luck, Chuck. You got to have the shot before the virus. There's only one virus that I'm aware of. There's probably more where you can get a shot after the virus and it works. And I think that might, and I'm not saying this to be sarcastic, just be God's graces, because the only one that works with is rabies. And the process of dying from rabies is not fun. And it's slow and it's painful. And you can actually get bit by a rabid animal, get a vaccine for rabies after getting bit, and it'll work and it can save you, which is crazy because no other viruses follow that except for rabies. And so I honestly think it's God's graces. So anyways, history, smallpox in the late 1700s, lots of people had it. Most people who got it were dying. People who survived had scars all over them, but they could go into towns where smallpox was running rampant and they wouldn't get smallpox again. So we had this basic, simple idea of immunity. We weren't quite sure what it was, but actually before Edward Jenner published his results, he wasn't the first guy to do this. A farmer who's not famous actually inoculated his entire family with cowpox to save them from the smallpox outbreak, and it worked. And they all lived. So you don't even have to be a scientist, honestly. You can just kind of go with your gut, and sometimes it works, I guess. Edward Jenner is the guy who gets the credit for it because he published, right? Notice that people who were working with dairy cows were immune to smallpox, and a lot of the folks who were milking these cows had cowpox, and they were very similar, those two viruses. And so he, of course, took this kid, and he did inoculate him with cowpox, and gave the kid cowpox, gave the kid smallpox after that. and found out that this kid, sure enough, was actually immune. And so that was a good one. Anyways, sorry, I'm catching up on. I just missed like 16 group messages. I can hear you playing guitar. Yes, me too. It sounded very nice. LOL, I was listening to music. That's okay, Leighton. Okay, cool. I'm all caught up. You guys are all caught up too. Any questions over any of that stuff while I was catching up on messages? Do I need to go back? Am I clicking too quickly? Okay. Thumbs up if this pace is okay. Pace is okay. Okay, cool. Moving on. All right, so you guys get the idea of basically how we're inoculating kids. Probably shouldn't be doing that, but we did, and there you have it. So Idea met a lot of resistance with his vaccination. It is very important that you note that your vaccination is not a cure. It's a preventative. It's not a cure. It's a preventative. You have to get the vaccine before you get the disease. This is why vaccines are so routine with school, right? Like before you go to kindergarten, you have to have Tdap and MMR, and nowadays you guys can even have chickenpox, right? Which is kind of cool. But you have to have all these vaccines before you go to school. Before I was allowed to go to a state university, I had to go get a meningitis vaccine because meningitis was spreading in the weight rooms in the colleges, and it was killing these healthy 20-something-year-olds. And the universities were kind of freaked out about it, so they started requiring it as part of your college admission to have a meningitis vaccine, because after you get meningitis, you can't do a thing for it. You have a virus running down the fluid that travels between your brain and spinal cord. Might end up deaf, might end up blind, might end up dead. Once that little thing is in there, it's in there. And that's a bad deal. So you got to have the vaccination before you get the illness, and that's a really interesting thing. Thumbs up if you know or strongly suspect. Thumbs up if you were vaccinated for chickenpox. Anybody got chickenpox vaccine? Thumbs up, thumbs up. Thomas, what's your question? He's got a hand up. Oh, he's got a thumbs up. Okay, gotcha. So you guys are mostly vaccinated for chickenpox, which I think is super cool because believe it or not, this is a story you might find kind of comical. I was inoculated with chickenpox when I was a kid because just like this little kid you're learning about here, this Phipps, right? They knew back when I was just a little tiny Richard toddling around in my diaper, they knew that when you got chickenpox as an adult, it was a bad deal. But if you got chickenpox when you were a kid, you were itchy for a few days, and then you were immune to chickenpox for the rest of your life. So when I was just a teeny tiny little tot, my folks took me over to a neighbor's house whose kid had chickenpox, and they set me down in the room with this kid and had me touch his toys, go play with that kid, so that I would get chickenpox. And sure enough, I got chickenpox as a little toddler. And I beat the chickenpox. It didn't kill me. I'm here, you know. And the idea is that from the rest of my life, I won't ever get chickenpox again, which is true. So my parents kind of thought they were doing me a favor, which I get. You know, they made the best decision they could with the information they had at the time. But you guys probably know this. Chickenpox goes into a lysogenic cycle, and then it sits in my skin for the rest of my life until I'm old, weak, and immunocompromised, and it will come back as what? Don, what'll it come back as?
Shingles.
Oh man, you got it. Shingles, which I hear burns like a fire of 1,000 suns, so I can't wait for that. But yeah, that's exactly right. So
One that you put on your house.
I might have to put on my what?
Not the kind you put on top of your house.
Yes, not the kind of shingles you put on your roof, but the dry, scabby patches of skin sloughing off of your back that I guess just feels great. Dawn.
So do the people who got inoculated with chickenpox have the same chance of smallpox, shingles?
Okay, so now here's the good news, right? You young kiddos here who got the chickenpox vaccine won't ever get chickenpox. And if chickenpox isn't living in you, then you can't have shingles later. Does that make sense? So you guys are in awesome shape, right? So that's pretty cool. I guess they have a shingles vaccine now, but it's like just not 100%. And yeah. So, anyways, we'll see. I'll let you know when I'm old and get shingles. I'm sure you'll love to hear from me. Okay. So people were freaked out about the vaccines for sure. People did not like the idea of putting another disease in you to become immune. They were afraid of it. And the irony sits that people are still afraid of it. I'll show you another video, maybe this time. We've only got 8 minutes. I'll post a video to Edmodo for part of tomorrow's lecture. We'll keep it within that half-hour confines. But I got a great video explaining to you this really confusing and just baffling concept that viruses, check that, vaccines are victims of their own success. Like, they do their job so well that in 2 generations, we've forgotten how bad diseases are, and people are scared to get vaccines, so they're not vaccinating. And we're bringing back things like measles that we were pretty sure we had exterminated. And it's a fascinating thing to view people's choices, and it's really interesting. Anyways, so what do we do with smallpox? 200 years later, after we learn this vaccine works, the World Health Organization gets together and they say, here's the deal. If smallpox doesn't exist in any animals, right? It's not transmitted by rats. It's not transmitted by mosquitoes. Like, you have to touch the pus from the wound of your neighbor to get smallpox in your skin. What if we just encircle every population that we know has smallpox and we make everybody get vaccinated? Then when the last person with smallpox kicks the bucket or gets better, we can eradicate smallpox for the rest of the world. Like, it'll be gone. Like, it's the first virus we can beat into non-existence. Like, that would be so cool. And of course, some people freaked out because they're like, I don't want the government touching me. Government, you can't force me to get vaccines. Forget you. But of course, back then, we also watched kids die of measles, mumps, rubella, and whooping cough, and hantavirus, and all these different viruses that were killing little kids. So more people were like, vaccines are awesome. Yes, please. I'd love for my kids to live. Let's get these vaccines going on. So we did it as a globe. Like, we actually encircled populations of people, and we vaccinated everybody around an outbreak of smallpox with the idea that just they can't transmit it. And of course, back then, people weren't jumping on airplanes and flying all over the place to spread this stuff real easily either. And so in 1980, which of course people were flying on airplanes in 1980, don't get me wrong. But in 1980, we had nobody transmitting it anymore. And we announced that smallpox was the first human disease to be eliminated. After we made measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines mandatory things for kindergarten, we had the same thing with measles where we eliminated them. And then like 3 years later, they came back, which is kind of cool because I guess we didn't eliminate them. But, you know, it's fine. So anyway, smallpox, we actually stopped vaccinating for people for that. 1972, we quit vaccinating American babies for smallpox because why would you vaccinate for a disease that's extinct, right? It's gone. We did it. We won. So we don't vaccinate for smallpox anymore. You guys aren't vaccinated for smallpox. I'm not vaccinated for smallpox. My parents probably are not, but my grandma definitely is. And so you can kind of extrapolate that out to what that looks like for your folks. And so is it eliminated? In the 1990s, Russia admitted to have frozen huge quantities of smallpox to save it as a biochemical weapon, knowing that if America raises generations of tiny people who aren't vaccinated for smallpox, it would be a neat feature to have the option to drop it on them. And everybody who's young and healthy and can fight would all have smallpox. And the only people who are immune to it would be the grannies and the grandpas. Now, fear not, little Americans, because America also has huge quantities of frozen smallpox. And so it's kind of an uneasy tension where we're equally matched and everything's on the up and up. So we have smallpox in our labs, frozen, and in our labs, not frozen, found on like demolition sites. 2 years ago, we found some in Indiana. That was pretty cool. And yeah, so smallpox, is it around? I guess not. I don't know. Don't let it keep you up at night, but good times were had by most, I guess. Thomas?
Okay, so does that mean like when you go into the military, would they like give you a smallpox vaccine or no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's such a good question.
Yes,
Thank
they
you.
do.
Thank you. We need some military moms and dads. Smallpox vaccines in the military. Thanks. Was that Sam?
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Is your dad at lecture with us?
No.
Oh man. Okay, that's all right. Mom, who's in the
Wait,
military?
at
Who gave
lecture
you-
with us?
Yeah, listening to the lecture. Who gave you the answer? Did you Google it, or did your folks? Are your folks in the military?
My dad was in the military.
Your dad
30
was in the
years.
military. Cool.
Yeah,
He's like, bring on the smallpox. I'm not even worried about it.
exactly.
All these other whippersnappers will be laying around in their own pus, but not me. All right. So now you guys know what's up. So here's a fun question. What do we vaccinate for today? This is from, I don't know if this is the Department of Health or the CDC, one of those government organizations. This is a super cool chart. So if you're curious, like, what am I even vaccinated for? Here's what you're vaccinated for. This is when you should be vaccinated. The range of recommended ages is the yellow block. And the range for catch-up immunizations is green. And high-risk groups are purple, so they'll step those guys back quite a ways. And then blue doesn't even show up on this graph except for one place, so don't worry too much about that. But here's the caveat. Assuming your parents followed a regular schedule for putting you in regular public schools, you're probably going to have most of these vaccines. If you were homeschooled, maybe not, because you're like in your own little world there. So that's a tough call. And parents can have the option to say yes and no to these as well, which we'll watch a video next time on what's called herd immunity. And that'll be the first thing you'll watch. And it's really interesting. So what are you vaccinated against? Hepatitis. That's a virus. There's actually more than one type of hepatitis. There's a whole string of letters, A, B, C, D, and oftentimes it'll run through daycares. It's a fecal oral route, which I know sounds gross because it is, but basically kids aren't washing their hands that great, and they will spread it from their mouth, and then it goes to their digestive system, and hepatitis actually means inflamed liver. Hepato's liver, and itis is inflammation, so the liver becomes a little bit larger, and that's hepatitis. Rotavirus is a family of viruses. Diphtheria, you might recall from that movie about the sled dog and the medicine in Alaska, right? Okay, Balto, that's diphtheria. Tetanus is actually a bacterium, which is cool because you can vaccinate against the bacterium. You guys probably have heard you get tetanus from rusty nails, right? Or rusty metal. Okay, good news. You can get tetanus from clean nails, okay, or rusty nails, whatever kind of nail you want to use. Tetanus is a bacterium that lives in the dirt. It gets in your bloodstream. It causes what's called lockjaw, so your muscles contract and you can't move your mouth. And I hear it's an incredibly painful way to die. Now, when you guys are little teeny tots, you get Tdap, tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, and you're good to go on the tetanus. Pertussis is what's called whooping cough. Whooping cough is this dry, awful cough that kids get. And your adults, I had talked to two kids who had whooping cough this summer, both in their teens. They said you cough so hard you want to vomit, and it only lasts a few months, which sounds terrible. But whooping cough stinks because it kills little kids. And that's kind of the deal that we don't like about whooping cough is it's not going to kill you, but you can't get vaccinated for it until this kid is 2 months old, right? If they're right on schedule. So the issue is you give whooping cough to a brand new baby or a 1 month old baby, and that kid's going to be in for a world of hurt. So you're actually protecting other people with your vaccines, not so much just you. So we also have influenza. The flu shot is something that comes out every single year. There's a whole bunch of different types of flu strains. And so the flu vaccine frustrates people because it's literally the guess for what strains are going to be most prevalent next year. And so then you end up getting folks who are like, I got the flu shot one year and then I got the flu. Stupid flu vaccine doesn't work. You know, they get all upset. And it's like, well, you know, they're making a guess with the strains. It happens, you know. And then you have pneumococcal conjugate, which is a whole bunch of different viruses. Polio virus. Polio is something we do still vaccinate against. Carried by mosquitoes, gives kids crooked legs, have a really hard time breathing, and folks don't really like those. Measles, mumps, and rubella are MMR. That's one vaccine. One vaccine, and you get 3 of these things knocked out. Varicella is chickenpox. Like I said, you guys got that. You're lucky. I don't have that. Meningococcal is meningococcal meningitis. Meningitis is a bad deal. We already kind of talked about that one. HPV is pretty much a standard one for like these preteen ages that they do now. I'll let you look that one up on your own. Tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, we already talked about. Another type of meningitis, and then another type of pneumococcal bacteria. So that's a long list. You don't have to memorize them. Don't memorize them. Don't do that, okay? But just get the idea that with this simple idea of building up immunity before you've gotten sick, we've taken, I don't know, I'm not going to count them, a dozen viruses, 20 viruses that we can, if everybody gets vaccinated or more than 99% of the population gets vaccinated, there's no one to give you the disease and they can actually disappear. Like measles was almost gone from the population of the entire United States like 4 years ago. Like gone, like extinct. You can do that. But enough people stopped vaccinating that it came back through Disney World, and here we sit. But it's fascinating. So anyways, with that, I'm afraid, guys, we are at our half-hour mark. So for next time, we're going to start this off a little bit different, okay? I'm going to have you guys, I'll post a video to Edmodo, and I'll email out a YouTube link of a video about vaccines and how they work, and it's really, really fascinating. But pause the video as you go through, because there's these graphs that show number of people infected by the virus or killed by the virus, how it changes over time, and they roll through these graphs in like 6 seconds. But each graph, like, hit pause and check it out because it's crazy. And then we'll pick up here next time, and I'll just take the amount of time it takes you to watch the video off of the lecture, and it'll be like, whatever, a 20-minute lecture instead of a 30-minute lecture. And we'll be in good shape for reviewing. So how are we tracking? Let's take a look at this before we stop video sharing. How are we tracking for a test Friday? Are we staying on track here? That's what I want to see. I want to see this PowerPoint and see. We have viral disease control, antiviral drugs, viral diseases, and then we are done. So, I mean, yeah, we're super. I think, boy, it's going to be a tough call. It'll either be Friday or next Monday. It kind of depends on how many questions you guys have. If we can wrap these notes up in 1 half-hour session, I don't know. I think that's pushing it. We might be doing this test Monday, Tuesday instead of Friday. We'll see as the notes progress and what questions you guys have. But it wouldn't surprise me if I ended up pushing this test from Friday to Monday. So just like always, right? We always make adjustments like this as we see how the lectures progress. Do you guys have any questions at all before I stop our recording and post to YouTube? Going once, going twice? You can type it in the chat box if you don't have speakers. There's so many new messages. Bye, Mr. Stecker. Bye, everyone. Doug, you're funny. Doug, you'll never take me alive, AKA the anti-vaxxers. Perfect. That sounds great. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure we'll get lots of anti-vaxxers commenting on our YouTube video. Good thing I'm not famous. Woo! You get a lot of comments. Anyways, you guys have an awesome day. And it was fun as always. Good to see your faces and know you're still alive in the super boring quarantine. Go play outside. It's warm and sunny. Just stay 6 feet from people or whatever. And I'll see you guys next time, okay?
See you, Mr. Stecker.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that didn't work.